baby, we gotta talk about these markets. Every YouTuber that I watch under the sun that has any exposure to individual stocks has been parading that the entire skies are falling. You need to stack cash, you need to get short hedges, and you need to just ride this out until the markets turn around, which is stupid advice because nobody knows when this storm comes to an end. And if you miss those periods where it does come to an end, usually you're missing out on a lot of gains here, folks. But we got to talk about the broad view perspective, because if you're buying safe assets, you got to always take a long-term perspective. And on a one-year basis, it's kind of mind-blowing to think that the S&P is really only down 3.41%. And we are starting to see this kind of 5-day rally going on. And again, I don't want to state that this is the exact bottom, because these are typically bear rallies that always are short-lived and end up into a sell-off. But the general markets, guys, not looking all that bad today. I mean, we are seeing a lot of green stabilizing here, and I think a lot of the sign for me that the markets are probably going to start stabilizing is coming out of NVIDIA, because God knows we've been seeing a lot of good earnings reports. There's always a mixed bag. It's like a double-edged sword. Sometimes it's good with a little bit of bad in there, and that bad is usually what gets fixated on. And every earnings we've got, whether it was Apple or Microsoft that crushed it, would always sell off and get dragged down with the market, arguably meaning the markets might have been a little overvalued, probably overvalued, and now we're seeing that capitulation period. But now that we've seen these bottomings, and I'm calling them a bottom because, again, the entire stock market has been falling against any earnings or news that would be positive, but NVIDIA here is doing something that is a little bit off tangent to what I've seen in the past. First and foremost, NVIDIA posted earnings, and the stock dropped over 5% in after hours. And I thought, okay, we're still in the same market. Doesn't matter how good or bad your earnings are, you're going down. And then out of nowhere, in the morning, the stock fully rebounded and jumped up almost 12% here. And just taking a look at the earnings, guys, the revenue was up 46% year over year. A lot of this is coming out of this double-edged sword scenario with every company. Still, NVIDIA is expecting to see just 8.1 billion in revenue in Q2, below the 8.44 billion analysts were expecting. Both China and Russia are popular PC gaming markets, and NVIDIA's graphic cards and chips are often used in the gaming PCs. With citizens in China unable to leave their homes, obviously the pandemic, more lockdowns, they're obviously going to be purchasing and ordering more chips and cards. But Russia has been cut off, obviously the geopolitical event. NVIDIA doesn't want to get their name skewed with that, but NVIDIA is expecting to take a $500 million hit in Q2 because Russia is has a huge gaming population, which I'm sure their population is probably just frustrated as hell with the politics there, because God knows they're probably not any more for the war than the Ukraine is right now. But I don't want to go down that topic. That's a crazy, that's going to cause an explosion in the comment section and probably get my video flagged. So let's talk about China specifically with Alibaba. Now, Alibaba, oh God, this thing's been a disaster, and yet even it on its earnings period, guys, jumped up 15% on a single day. And again, I keep telling you this, guys, Alibaba's bottomed here. I don't see it going back to those $70 ranges, and it seems to be holding true continually on those earnings that came out, where when I was kind of just skimming through this, you know, on the entire revenue basis, we're going to talk about the RMB, which is their currency. They do offer a little bit of US insight here, but nonetheless, the total revenue growth, guys, was about 9% on that earnings. But what was really fascinating is every aspect of their business is still growing pretty immensely here. I mean, you look at cloud computing, went up massively, about 12% here. Digital media and entertainment was the only one that I saw that took some of the biggest hits, but local consumer services was up. I mean, just skimming through this earnings report, it was absolutely fabulous here, folks. So from the Chinese market to NVIDIA, these kind of global dominating industries that are literally the conglomerates in their own sectors are doing what I would say to be just fine. I mean, it's crazy that, oh, NVIDIA's going to take a $500 million hit and still show record revenue growth, right? Like, look at Royal Bank. Let's talk about the Canadian perspective here real quick, because after getting Bank of Nova Scotia earnings, it's no surprise that the Canadian banks continue to post relatively robust numbers with dividend increases. I mean, the net income for Royal Bank up 6% year over year. They're increasing the dividend 7%, raising it about 0.08 cents. So being a RY Royal Bank shareholder, doing very well. TD, the Toronto Dominion Bank, guys, this one probably had some of the best performance. I mean, on a single day, it's up 2.27%, so it's outperforming the other banks today. However, they're not going to give us a dividend increase. So the numbers coming out of TD were still fabulous. I mean, total revenue reported did very, very well here. We can see from January 31st of 2022 for the 3-month end, actually increased or slightly decreased quarter over quarter, but on a year over year basis for a 6-month end, actually, we can see that it has increased. So these numbers are relatively expected, but CM taking taking the biggest hit right now, guys. Still increasing the dividend. Why are they taking a hit? Because this one's actually red on the day. Well, I wouldn't say it was from the revenue numbers, because obviously the reported net income was down, but there are specific reasons for it being down. And this company as well, guys, increased their dividend. You know, they're going, what are we going up here? So the common dividend of 0.805 cents per share to 8.83 per share. So we are getting not nearly as big as RY. I think it's about a 3% dividend increase. But what you got to pay attention to is why CM is getting hit. CIBC missed was largely driven by an 847% surge in basically credit loss provisions to 303 million due to its acquisition, also due to its acquisition of the Canadian Costco credit card portfolio, as well as higher expenses. So again, you know, we all know CIBC is getting involved with Costco, very good partnership there, but all the other banks, guys, just doing fairly good. Now, obviously, as Bank of Nova Scotia iterated that they have lowered guidance, obviously as interest rates go up in the initial beginning, people are taking less loans, will hit their bottom line, but over the long term, inevitably, as people continue to use credit cards and loans and mortgages, that the interest rate being higher will have a longer growth impact on that bottom line. So across the spectrum here, guys, it's just like, it's the same as it's always been. You know, it doesn't matter how good your numbers are, usually the stocks go down, but now we're not kind of seeing that same sort of trend. We're seeing riskier companies like Alibaba rallying on, you know, a 9% net income growth, which isn't like huge by any metric. We were kind of getting used to those 18-20% revenue growth periods, but again, with that lowered guidance and still being able to beat these numbers, like I said, guys, this isn't 2008. This isn't the dot-com bubble, unless you're in highly speculative investments that were a bubble that have bursted, which arguably could be stated as buying opportunities now. I just don't see why people are running around saying the sky is still falling. I'm like, you know, this is where we buy, baby. This is where we load up. And like I said, we'll be talking about things we're buying here very soon. But on that note, I pass the question off to you. I'd love to know what you guys think about all of this in that comment section below. Stay cool, stay awesome, and as always, I look forward to catching you in the next one.